Hello everyone, this is Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore. Welcome to the Music Masterclass. So excited to be here today and to have all of you here. So as you have probably seen, I'm going to be previewing my Harmony and Chord Progressions course here to kind of give you an idea of what the course will be like and actually teach you some of the material from the course during the session. And definitely be asking questions. I'm, happy to answer whatever questions I can. I feel my job is to help you make the right choice as far as joining the course if you haven't decided yet. If you have already decided it's for you, then great. I'm just going to be giving you a taste of what's to come and some stuff to maybe be thinking about in the meantime. And if the course isn't going to work out for you, that's fine. Hopefully you can learn some stuff from what I talk about today. So I'm going to be kind of all over the place. You know me. I go in these things with a rough idea of what I'm going to talk about and then talk about them. So what I want to do first is show you the syllabus for the course. All right. I'm just going to show you the syllabus. And so I'm going to do that by flipping over to where the course originally lived on Teachable. So I need to explain a little bit of logistic stuff. Teachable is the site where my courses originally lived, and it's a great site. I love it. I use it for a lot of things, but it didn't support a community feature, and so I really wanted to have that going, and so that's why I created the Circle site. And then there's been sort of this, awkward, some things are on Teachable, some things are on Circle thing going on. So what I'm trying to do is coalesce, and I'm coalescing on Circle, moving courses there and running them there, because that way we can do all the community things, have the projects, give each other feedback, all the stuff we can do, run these live streams and so forth. So I'm basically taking the material that was in the Harmony course, moving it over to Circle, and adding all this supplemental material like I did for basic theory. So let me give you just sort of a quick overview of the syllabus so you can see what is here. Okay, so introduction is just introduction, telling you about how the course works. So the first section, well, okay, I'm gonna first give you a really quick tour. Basic principles is the first section. We're gonna work on that for the first couple weeks. Diatonic chords being the next section. We'll work on that for the next couple weeks. Secondary dominance is the next section. That'll be a couple weeks. Borrowed chords we'll talk about for a couple weeks. Other chromatic harmony, which is going to include diminished approach chords, augmented sixth chords, Neapolitan, tritone substitution, pedal point. We'll talk about that for a couple weeks. And yeah, we might need more than 2 weeks on that section. We might try to steal it from another section. We'll see. And then we'll talk about modulation, changing keys, because everything else that I've talked about here really has to do with the idea of chords working together within a key. Then is a final section that's sort of, I will say that everything else in this course, if you've ever taken like a harmony course, a music theory course that focuses on harmony, most of the terms I've used just now are going to seem very familiar. Like, oh yeah, I learned about that, or I read about that. I don't really fully understand it, but I know something about that thing. This section on, and I am covering the same material because this is material that's been around for hundreds of years, but I feel I have my own practical way of explaining it and helping you learn it really well in ways that, most of us don't learn. I went to music school and I didn't learn this stuff as well as what I think I'm going to be able to show you. So that's what I'm really excited, and I'm going to be talking about how I'm going to do that a little bit. So this last section here, common idioms, this is the one that's maybe the most uniquely me. There are relatively few other people who will be explaining harmony in the way that I'm going to at the end of the course here. So it's definitely something to look forward to, and I am going to talk about it more today as well, because it's really a unique thing, and I'm going to try to be threading some of these concepts throughout the course. But the idea is basically when people look at harmony, normally we look at it one chord at a time or two chords at a time. Where does this chord go? This chord resolves to that chord. I want to step back and look at a slightly bigger picture, not just one chord at a time, but a whole phrase at a time, and ask myself, what is that phrase doing? So For instance, I'm going to flip over, and I've got like a couple of songs pulled up that I'm going to use as examples. So this is an Italian art song, Karo Mio Ben, which actually it's not even clear who actually even wrote the thing. It says attributed to Giuseppe Giordani, but I guess there's some doubt about whether he wrote that. So would someone please put in the chat that if you're having sound problems, try just refreshing your screen. Someone please put that in the chat, because often that works, or close the window and come back. But apparently everyone else can hear me, right? I'm assuming everyone else is hearing me. I did a test before I could hear myself. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just play a little bit of this piece, Karo Mio Ben, and talk about it from that respect of the these phrases. So I'm going to leave out the intro and just play where the voice comes in here. Sorry, I'm trying to read the voice part and the piano part together. So thanks for helping out, Leonore. Okay, so this song is one, you know, I know kind of the song. I don't know it super well, but one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is how, like, for instance, this phrase, that phrase, it starts with 1, goes to 5, comes back to 1, right? That is something that I refer to as a static phrase, meaning it starts on 1, goes around for a little while, and comes back to 1. And what we eventually learn is that there's a lot of other phrases that have that same thing. A lot of other chords that could be used instead of 1 to 5 to 1, if you've got the time for it. Like at that tempo, you know, it could be something like 1, 6, 5 to 1. I'm not saying that's better, but recognizing that those two phrases, 1, 5 to 1, and this other one, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, accomplishes the same thing. Takes a little bit of time to start on 1, come back to 1. So the reason this is important is it has a lot to do with being able to look for patterns in music, to recognize the patterns in these somewhat bigger pictures. And this is really what I'm going to be all about throughout the course, but it's really what that last section really focuses on. And the reason I saved that section for last is you have to understand the little details to be able to see the big pictures. And that is maybe my big personal breakthrough that I'm going to come back to. The idea that you might look at songs and see lots of little chords here and think, oh my gosh, how can I ever learn what's going on here? But when you can step back and see the big picture, it's simpler. So some of you have seen me give some version of this little spiel before, but if I give you a number like 96158472230, and then ask you, well, I'll talk about something else for a little bit, and I'll talk about this song, and those numbers could be Roman numerals, right? They could be Roman numerals. And so now I'm wondering, remember those numbers I said? Who can spit them back to me? Who can spit them back? Who can tell me all those numbers that I just said? Man, I'll be interested to see who in the chat can do that. But what if I gave you, I'll give you a few seconds to that while I answer Allison's question. So yes, Allison, this particular voicing is using inversions, right? And so that's also an important part of what's happening. But being able to see what's happening harmonically, bigger picture-wise, is going to help you recognize the patterns. So let's talk about what. So let's see, 1, 6, 1, 5, 8, 4, 7230. So Joanne, that might be right. I don't know. That might be. Joanne might have it, although I know last time you told me you cheated and went back and listed. Okay, there you go. So I figured, I know you did that last time too. But the point is, it's hard, right? What if I gave you this sequence? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same length of a sequence, but you can remember that one forever, right? Because you've seen it before. You know that sequence, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know that pattern. You can say it really quickly because it's got a logic to it. You know what that pattern is. Or the pattern 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You know that pattern really well also. The more of these patterns you know, then when someone gives you a list of 9 numbers, you're not having to remember 9 numbers. You just remember the pattern, right? So it's kind of the same with these phrases. Once we recognize that a pattern is 151 or 16251 or whatever that pattern is, if it's a pattern that you've learned and realized that I've seen that whole pattern before, not just 2 chords, but a whole pattern of 4 chords, say, that you've seen that pattern before and seen that pattern of 4 connect to this other pattern of 4, once you can recognize that, lots of doors become unlocked. So to address again what Allison's talking about, I'm not necessarily talking about changing this song at all, although I might, right? I might be interested in arranging it for orchestra. And if I arrange it for orchestra, I'm going to voice the chords differently. This was arranged for piano. Arranging for orchestra, I might voice the chords differently. Chances are I'll hold on to that bass line. I think I talked about this piece a few months ago and how that bass line is this beautiful stepwise bass line. That's not a step, but it might as well be, right? F sharp to G, it just changes octaves, and it just keeps going up by step, right? It's this beautiful stepwise bass line, but now I've only got 2 things to remember. If I remember the pattern of the chords, not necessarily every chord one by one, like 9, 6, 1, whatever, but I remember the pattern, and then I remember there's an ascending bass line, that's many fewer things to memorize than having to think about every single note that I'm playing here. So if you're trying to memorize this piece of music, seeing patterns helps, right? So understanding harmony and being able to see these patterns is really important for memorization. But that's one of the many skills. That's one of the skills where I would say, it's useful to virtually anyone playing music. But, we talk about the creative act of making music, creating music. And what if you did want to create your own song in this style? Or what if you wanted to create your own orchestral arrangement of this song? And so therefore you want to have at your disposal more instruments that can do more things. You want to understand these structures to be able to be able to have your way with the harmonies here. So I'm going to give you a real practical example right now. I would love to be able to sing this song. I've you all know I'm not a singer, but I have fun with it, right? But this in this key is kind of too high for me, right? Kind of too high for me. I'm struggling right on that first note. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this song in D. I want to do it in B flat. So one of the things that I want to be able to do is transpose this to other keys. Now, if you saw the story that I was telling earlier this week about transposing, this is something in the world of jazz piano that jazz pianists are expected to do like on the fly. It really does happen in professional situations where you might be working with a singer you've never worked with before, and they say, hey, I want to do Karo Mio Ben. Well, they would pick a jazz piece instead of this one, but whatever, and say, I want to do it in B flat. And you might think, gee, I've never played that song before in B flat, but you got to pull it off. So I want to be able to take this song and play it in B flat, which I've never done. Now, of course, it's in MuseScore. I can download it to my computer, load it into MuseScore, let MuseScore do the transposition, and then read it off my computer screen. But that's not practical to do in live performance, right? That's a bit too much. You really want this skill of being able to just transpose on the fly if you're in that sort of world. that's another usage of this type of skill. But also, as I said, composing. If you want to compose chord progressions that remind you of other chord progressions, you want to compose something in this style, you want to compose something in the style of Beethoven or whatever, then you need to understand their approach to harmony. I'm going to take this and actually try to transpose it right now and talk a little bit more. Oh, Dave, that's impressive about pi. I'm with you up to 14159. I know that much. And now that I see 26535, I'm like, ooh, I think I even learned that much. I think when I was a kid, I used to be fascinated with that kind of stuff. And I think I learned that much of it. 14159, 26535. Yeah, I think I learned that much of it, when I was 12 years old and fascinated by things like that. I still am. So good job. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to try to play that song and move it to B flat. All right. So I'm just going to try this. So I'm going to think about it first, and I'm going to take the approach that I talked about in the thing that I put in the newsletter earlier this week, where I talked about this really simplistic melody and bass note. So I'm going to play this piece with just the melody and the bass note. So the bass line is super simple. It's just a stepwise line. What if I wanted to understand the roots of it? Can I do it with the roots? And then it's 5 and back to 1. And then it's 4, 5 to 6. Okay. The melody is just this descending line. And then goes up a step. Oh, sorry, B minor. Amy, you say C. Why C instead of B flat? C is still going to be pushing it for me. I'm doing this for me to sing, but we'll do C after that. How about that? I'm going to do B flat for myself. Okay? Now I got to think about this, and I'm going to play that melody while I play that bass line. Right? That's pretty easy. But what if I want to fill in the chord and not just have the bass line? I remember it was 5 to 1. And then it was 4, 5 to 6. Those patterns I know. I'm not memorizing numbers. I'm telling you the numbers. I'm picturing the pattern. 1, 5, 1 is what I call a static progression. 4, 5, 6 is a cadence, and in particular, a deceptive cadence. So these are the chunks of information that I'm remembering. So now I have some chance of that is not the same voicings as were there originally, because again, there was there's some inversions of, selections of notes in the inner voicings. Antonio, I don't know. Someone would have to answer, but I'm still seeing things on my screen. I'm trying to monitor on my other screen to make sure that things are fine. So someone might suggest, assuming that we're not frozen for everyone, someone could suggest to Antonio to also do the same thing. Refresh your browser, try leaving and coming back. That's always my go-to. All right, so this, what I just played, and then this triad is not quite there. That's how it was. All right, so now let's do this in C, shall we? Because Amy wants it in C. Let's do it. I can play the melody with that bass line easily enough. Right? Now what if I do it with the chords, with the roots of the chords? And then 4, 5, 6. All right, now let me try to fill it all in. So I'm still hesitating on this chord because there's a 7th in it, but I think it's an actual G chord. I'm going to come back to it. In C, right? So I can do that in C also. You can give me another key, I'll do it in that key. But I'm still curious about that second chord because I'm not totally sure what was going on with it. So I'm going to come back to the original, and it's this. All right, so the voicing really is just a full dominant seventh chord. And so now I'm wondering, well, why am I not finding that voicing when I play it in other keys? Well, let me think about it. So this had the original version, I might think, has the third in the melody here, the seventh in my right hand. All right, that's good to know. When I do it in B flat, third, yeah, that's the voicing right there. All right, cool. So yeah, the point is, by not having to think about, like, imagine if I tried to do this by saying, oh, I'm taking every note down a major third. I got to move that F sharp down a major third, got to move that D down a major third. Trying to like move every single note down a major third. Yes, I could calculate that and do it. No way can I do that on the fly like I'm doing right now. Hey, what if I want to do this song in F? No, I'll do it in G. And then a 5 chord, and then 1, and then 4, 5, just send it in now. And it's because I'm able to see these big pictures that I'm going to do. C sharp? Sure, Dave, why not? I got to think about, I got to orient myself in the key a little bit, but right? How about A? Sure, why not? I got to choose if I'm going to do it there or here. I'll do it here. And then I need my D, my 5 chord, back to 1, and then 4, 5 to 6. So once you understand the structure of the song, then moving it in other keys becomes progressively easier and easier, right? The hard part is understanding the structure of the song, getting in your head. Once you're there, you can start moving it around. And I don't want to focus on this as the only thing that I talk about, but it is something that I definitely wanted to talk about. And I'm sorry if we're having internet issues. At my end, it's telling me, well, I should look again. But at some point, yeah, it's giving me 3 bars of connection, which is as many as there is in here. Yeah, I think I'm sending out good information as far as the internet goes. So the hard part is understanding the structure of the piece and breaking it down into understandable pieces in your head. And the thing is that a traditional music theory course gives you all the nuts and bolts. It's going to tell you, oh yeah, 5 likes to go to 1. Oh yeah, 5 can also go to 6. That's called a deceptive cadence. But seeing it in these bigger phrases, looking at these bigger pictures, and I've barely even scratched the surface of this. This is where I made the most progress in doing this. And then I discovered how much I was able to apply this to composition, to arranging, to everything else. But it actually, for me, when I talked about that, when I told you that story earlier about like being embarrassed on the bandstand because I couldn't follow a chord progression in a different key, and that one guy who was able to transpose stuff that I was like, I can't believe he just transposed Sophisticated Lady, and then I chose to work on it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I did that, and it definitely involved transposition. So to answer Sue's question here, what level is the course? Well, let me come back to the actual syllabus. My expectation, so yeah, it's hard to say high school level, because like, if you think about a high school, typically they're not teaching music theory, right? They're teaching, they have a band program, they have a choir program, they might have beginning instrumental instruction. The only theory involved here in a high school program usually is if you actually take AP history. At least that's the United States version of things. I'm sure other countries are different. So other countries have their own system, but in the United States, we have this thing called advanced placement, or AP, which is a way of taking a course in high school that's basically college level, right? So AP music theory is very much the material that I'm covering, but I'm not, the AP Music Theory course is very much designed to help you pass the AP Music Theory test. And so it's very detail oriented, less big picture practical oriented. So to me, this is at the same level as an AP Music Theory course, but has a different focus. So it's really a university level course as far as that goes, but it is the type of material that is taught to enterprising high school students if they're really into it, right? So that's that. And so Amy, as far as where MuseScore comes into this, nowhere unless you need it to, right? Because we are going to be looking at a lot of songs to analyze, and we're going to be composing our own songs or creating our own harmonizations. So if you choose to use MuseScore to create your arrangements, great. A lot of us here are using MuseScore because that's one of the things that I'm famous for, right? One of the things that I'm famous for is, you know, having worked on MuseScore, developed it some, and teaching it. I have a separate course on MuseScore that if you sign up for this course, you also get free access to my MuseScore course along with my other courses, right? So you are able to use MuseScore, but you don't have to. You could totally do the entire course just with you and a guitar, you and a piano, you and a piece of paper and a pencil, or, you know, you plus using Syllabus or any other notation software. You can do any of those things. So, but the examples that I provide are going to be created in MuseScore, but I provide them as PDF files and also online. So let's talk about these interactive handouts then. I'm going to go ahead and click one of these lessons. Which one was I going to show? Doesn't really matter, but I'll show this one here, right? The borrowed chords. So the lesson, this again is teachable. It's going to be the same basic structure on Circle, but it won't look exactly like this. But yeah, you'll see the list of lessons. I think it'll be on the right instead of the left. There'll be a video, which now my internet connection is being real slow here because there should be a video here. It's not displaying, but here is the interactive handout. So interactive handout is created using MuseScore. Let me shrink this down so we can see it a little better. So, well, I guess, yeah, there we go. All right. So the handout here is created in MuseScore. So when I call it interactive, what this means is, and Steinar, I'll get to your question in a second, and America the Beautiful, I can talk about that as well. So yes, Kevin, the interactive handouts are these things that I've created in MuseScore. So here it is within the context of the lesson. You don't need MuseScore to see this. This is just Chrome. This is just my web browser viewing the course. But because I've created it in MuseScore and uploaded it to MuseScore.com, I can play these examples. So the handout has some text in it, but I can select this measure and press the play button. Right? So you could hear that example played. Or then you can read the text and see what's going on and say, wait a minute, let me hear that second measure again. Okay, that's what a minor plagal cadence is, right? So by interactive handout, that's what I mean. You can, this handout, the way I describe these handouts, I mean, if you see what I've got going here, these are bullet points, right? They are basically bullet points. I'm writing in complete sentences because I'm kind of a grammar nerd as well as a theory nerd. So I write in complete sentences that I'm not capitalizing for not any really good reason. But the thing is, MuseScore doesn't support word wrap. So writing in full paragraphs is kind of awkward to do within MuseScore. So I chose to work with that instead of work against it. I said, can I challenge myself to write short sentences that'll fit on one line that I can make as bullet points? This is the challenge I gave myself when I first created my basic theory course. And then I saw that it worked well. So I used the same format here in the Harmony course, and I used the same format in my Counterpoint course that I'll probably be doing the same approach with in the spring. So by using the bullet points, it's kind of like, you know, if you have a textbook like this one here, a common thing, I don't have anything done in this one, I write in the margins, or somewhere I probably have a yellow highlighter pen where I've just written stuff in margins, but some people, write in yellow highlighter pen to say, oh yeah, this is the important stuff. Well, my handouts are it's the important stuff, right? This is the stuff you would have highlighted. If I had written full paragraphs with tons of information, this would have been the sentence that you would have highlighted anyhow. So the video has me giving you all the rest of the information and the context. The handout then basically has all of the highlighted sentences from the video. That's the way I would describe it. So the thing with basic theory is because the course includes free membership in the gold level membership program for the duration of the course. The course is 15 weeks. I rounded it up and made it 120 days. So for 120 days, you have a free trial of my gold level membership, and that means you have access to the basic music theory course as well as the MuseScore course. I'm still working out with the counterpoint thing because that's on the other site, but if people want to access the counterpoint course now, I will definitely make that happen. But I'm going to take this same approach with counterpoint in the spring. So I'd really rather people don't get too far ahead of the game and try to tackle the counterpoint course on your own, given that I'm going to do it in the spring. But by all means, I'm going to make that available to you. So yes, the short answer is for the duration of this course, you will have access to everything in basic music theory as well. You'll be able to access those spaces because you'll have basically gold level membership. You will be able to go to office hours. So yeah, office hours are another thing about the gold level membership. These music masterclass sessions and the MuseScore Cafe sessions, right? They are me talking and you participating in the chat. And that works great. It's a great format for a lot of reasons. It lets me focus and just talk and just be a fountain of information. But of course, face-to-face, right? Zoom meeting types of things are important too. And so that's basically what office hours are. Office hours are something I offer just for the gold level members, and we do them every Tuesday, and we just sit down, me and however many people show up. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 people, sometimes it's 12 people. It varies from week to week. And you just show up, and I don't have an agenda. I'm not like sitting here giving speeches. I'm just answering questions and facilitating conversation. So basically, office hours are something else that because of your gold level membership, you will have access to for the duration of the course. Man, I am so sorry to see that people are having all this freezing going on. But yeah, because it's still working for some people, I have to imagine the problem is not on my end. So I'm just going to keep going, and we'll assume the recording will be good. Someone maybe just point that out in the chat that, even if you're having problems, the recording should be good so you can check it out later. So Amy, I'm hoping that you will be able to get this back so that, because I do want to actually address America the Beautiful, because it is something that I've harmonized before. But first, I want to address Kevin's question, premium MuseScore support. So I'll tell you what this means in practice. It means I'm going to answer your question, period. I will answer your question. So if you have a question about MuseScore, you post it, I will answer it. If you go try to get support on Facebook or go to the MuseScore forums, you'll probably get an answer. Yeah, sometimes some questions go without answer, especially on the forums these days, because it is so full of people asking questions. There's more people asking at this point than answering. And so I don't have the time to deal with the forums as much as I used to. I want to focus on providing the best support I can to the people who are, really also invested in this with me. So that's what I'm saying is basically I am promising I will answer your questions. And if you have a problem, we will get to the bottom of it. If there's a bug report for gold level membership, I will help file that bug report for you. If I can reproduce the problem myself, then I can open the bug report for you. I basically just want to make sure that you can succeed using MuseScore. So that's a sort of a concierge service, we might call it, for gold level members that I've never really made a big thing of before, but I've just decided that's something I'm going to offer. So I'll be talking more about MuseScore related things coming up because I've got some other new ideas like that as well. All right, so what I'm going to do here next is I am going to flip over to MuseScore, and I'm going to go ahead and open my America the Beautiful, because it was asked about, and whether or not Amy's able to see this now or whether she's her screen is frozen, I feel like I can play through this and talk through this. So let's talk about my America the Beautiful arrangement. I posted this maybe a couple of years ago, and posted it and did like a video where I described some about it. And I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of this as well, and then I'm going to use it as an example for something. So yeah, I mean, obviously I can see that given how long this is taking to load, my system is being slower than usual. But if other people are seeing the video fine, that's not the problem. So I'm just going to let America the Beautiful continue to load. So when I told that story about how I got from the point of not being able to transpose on the fly, not being able to hear chord progressions very well, to the point where I'm at now, where I actually can do those things quite well, I would like to say, the process was sort of a trial and error one, as I mentioned. But I'll tell you right now what the key was, what the single most important thing that I did was, and it was transposition. That was not, something that I expected. I knew I wanted to work on transposition, and as a result, I found that I learned a lot about harmony. So let's talk about this piece. So I'm going to play a little of this piece, and then I'm going to talk through what this process was that I went through, and I'm going to recommend you go through it also. So this is one of those things where, again, whether you take the course or not, pay attention to this and you will get something out of it. So I'm going to play through this America the Beautiful arrangement. Double flats. Who writes that? Me. So that's one stanza. I then did a whole other stanza as well, which is just different reharmonizations. So that's a reharmonization that I did using, all the techniques that we're going to talk about. So every single chord in this piece I can talk about in terms of, so that one with the double flats, which who decides to write in D flat and then gives you minor 4 chords? But that's what this is. It's a minor 4 chord. So the D flat chord, in the key of D flat, G flat is 4, G flat minor is minor 4, and as anyone who's paid attention to me for a while knows, that's one of my very favorite chords. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous chord. So, whoa, got to play it right. So if I play it a little simpler, if I play it as a triad. Now, it wasn't very interesting as a triad. That's why I inverted the dang thing, right? Because it gave me that stepwise bass line. And I added a sixth to the chord. The sixth is is also part of what makes that sound, the minor 6th chord. A minor 4 chord played as a minor 6th chord, right? So that chord is one, and so yeah, if you spell it correctly, you end up with double flats. Now, should I have put the song in a key other than D flat and then not had to deal with that? Yes, maybe. Should I have called that chord F sharp minor over A instead? Yeah, maybe, maybe not, because there's still something useful about spelling chords according to the key, even when they're ugly. But I will admit there's a judgment call there, and we'll get more into that, because the more complex you get with your chromaticism, the harder it's going to be able to avoid certain ugliness in terms of your enharmonic spellings. As long as you're staying diatonic or mostly diatonic, then absolutely you want to you want to stick to the correct spelling, because if it's in the key, it should look like it's in the key. We shouldn't be seeing accidentals that don't belong there. But if when you have non-diatonic chords, yeah, there's a correct spelling, and then sometimes there's a better readable spelling, and it gets a little to be a gray area. So to be honest, Amy, I don't even remember why I put this in D flat. I just was inspired to, I think. I started playing around on the piano, and I just liked it in that key. I liked how it felt, because I'm not one of these people who's going to try to tell you that C objectively sounds different from D flat. If you've got perfect pitch, of course they sound different. On instruments other than pianos, they're going to sound different, because, like, you know, wind instruments will have different harmonics in C versus D flat. Stringed instruments are going to have different open strings. Well, the same open strings, but you get to use those open strings more in C than D flat, etc. Right? So different instruments will have different sounds for different keys. Piano really doesn't. It's completely in our mind that we associate different keys with different emotions. But what is true on piano is there's a physical difference between C and E flat, or C and D flat, just because of the arrangement of the black keys and our thumbs being shorter than our other fingers, making certain voicings easier to reach. So, anyhow, I'm gonna just keep going off here, because again, I don't really have a specific agenda here other than to get you excited about harmony, and so I'm just going to go with what we're talking about. The key that a piece is originally written in is often not a particularly interesting consideration, because, like, think about that Karo Mio Ben. It's published in multiple editions. It's published in basically a soprano version, an alto version, a tenor version, a baritone version, right? It's published in multiple versions for different voice ranges. And that's just the way it normally is. And if you think about songs that come from, say, musical theater, like, you know, all the kinds of jazz, the kind of standards that we do a lot in jazz really came from musical theater. They were probably written by the composer in one key, and then immediately, before anyone ever heard it, transposed into whatever key it needed to be for the person who played that role on Broadway to be able to sing it, and then was probably transposed into yet another key for the first published sheet music arrangement, right? So often we don't even know what the original key for a piece is, unless it's a piece of classical music where that pedigree is a little clearer. So with America the Beautiful, I'm not convinced that we would even know the original key that it was written in. We might know the first publication, though, which, you know, could be useful. So I want to talk a little bit more about why I talked about transposing, because you can totally learn harmony without thinking about transposing. Absolutely. Transposing, I would say, is a byproduct of understanding harmony. So I talked about that at first, was a useful benefit of it, but it's also how I got there. And so what my process was, I wanted to learn transposition, and so I just kind of brute forced it. I said, I'm going to play some songs, and I'm just going to try to force myself to play them in other keys. And I'm going to do that by trying to do it and just seeing what happens. And eventually I started realizing I could do it better if I could see patterns, and then I started seeing bigger and bigger patterns. And I'll tell you what the sort of light bulb moment was for me. One day I decided I was going to take all the songs I was working on. So I had a whole system. I had index cards, and I wrote down names of songs on index cards. I did it by letter of the alphabet. I had all the songs beginning with the letter A that I wanted to play on one index card, all the songs beginning with the letter B on another index card. And one day I said, I'm going to just take all my letter C songs, all the songs starting with the letter C, and I'm going to play them back to back. And then I said, I'm going to play them all back to back in the same key. I don't know what made me do that, but I did. And my brain, sorry about that, my brain almost exploded when I did that. I took a whole bunch of songs that were originally, you know, I had to learn them in other keys. I had worked on transposing them and then worked on them in different ways. But then I played them all back to back in the same key. And it's amazing how the light bulbs went off. So for instance, this little passage right here that I was just playing, starting bar 9. That passage right there, that minor 4 chord going to 5, if I'm playing this in D flat, I'm not necessarily aware of it as a minor 4 chord. I can't tell you how many times I had played a minor 4 chord in my life without ever recognizing that that's what it was a minor 4 chord, right? Because I wasn't, you play the piano, you're not Roman numeralizing everything while you play. Even if you're a jazz player, you're not doing that normally. You're just playing the chords you see or playing the notes you see if you're playing, you know, an art song like Karo Mio Ben. You know, you're just reading the notes and you're not thinking necessarily about all the harmony of what's happening. But as soon as you start playing songs back to back in the same key, then you start noticing, I just played that F sharp minor or G flat minor chord in that other song, and now I'm playing it again here, right? So here's another song here. If I take I'll Be Seeing You, this is one I had up. If I start playing this one, does this one have a minor 4? I don't even know if it does or not. Doesn't matter. But whatever it has going on. Oh, yeah, here we go. Looking at the moon and I'll be seeing you. Right? If I play it in this key, I'm not aware of that minor 4 chord having any connection to what I just saw. Dave, that's a really good question. Light bulb going off versus going on. You know, because obviously on makes sense. I think we talk about fireworks going off and or explosions going off. And so maybe I'm mixing metaphors, to be honest. I'm not I'm not so sure if that's just me saying light bulb going off. That might just me doing weird things. That'd be something to look into. So yeah, so when I play this, it's not obvious that this chord here, that A flat minor chord here, is basically the same chord functionally as that G flat minor chord here. But if I play this song now in E flat, right? So this song is in E flat here. So this is 2 and then minor 4. That minor 4 to 5 to 1. If I then come back and play America the Beautiful in that same key, then I'm like, wow, A flat minor 4, A flat minor 6. I just played that song, that same chord, A flat minor 6. I just played that exact same chord in I'll Be Seeing You. You start noticing those connections because it isn't just the same abstract Roman numeral. It's the same buttons on the piano, the same stuff. You're playing literally the same thing. Your finger is making the same shapes, right? So when I play this chord, or if I put it in an inversion, and then play it like that, I will recognize the actual finger shapes that I'm making, the actual names of the chords. These connections then become that much more concrete. So that's how I managed to realize some things that I was totally missing before, was by playing songs back to back in the same key. So that requires a certain level of piano skill. And I'm not expecting that all of you have that same level of piano skill to be able to do this thing. But that's why I'm also focused on things like just playing melody and bass note. Because melody and bass note plus the non-diatonic note from the chord. And if I also say, well, let me get a third in there. Melody is the third here. The non-diatonic note is the third here. D is a third, so I'm going to add it. And then add a third here. So there's ways that I can help you play simplified versions of a piece, just playing the melody, the bass note, and making sure you're completing the triad. With a third at least, anyhow. Fifths, whatever. But getting that third in there, and then you can try that and then try transposing that, right? So you don't have to be a highly skilled pianist to do that. You have to have access to a piano, and you have to have some inclination to want to work on that skill. But I will say, that is something you can work on and discover the same things for yourself then that I discovered, how that minor 4 chord works. The fact that that minor 4 chord works also works as a flat 7 chord, and to recognize this connection between minor 4 and flat 7 by having seen it in a whole bunch of songs, playing them back to back, and recognizing that, hey, that minor 4 often goes to flat 7. That's interesting. I never even thought about flat 7 as being a chord, but it is. And it's a chord that's very often borrowed from minor keys and used in major keys. So these concepts that I learned through the transposing, being able to see these patterns, I learned them through that whole exercise of playing lots of songs and transposing. And I'm not saying that you have to go through all those same exercises to learn the concepts, because what I'm going to do is whittle them down for you. I basically say, hey, look, there's that thing about minor 4 chords, and here's that minor 4 chord right here. Here's 4 going to minor 4, going to 1. And then I talk about, well, not just minor 4, but it often gets combined with flat 7. And so I give examples of all of these different ways that that minor 4 chord might work in terms of being combined with this other chord. These are the things that I discovered, sort of taught myself through this whole process of transposition. But I'm not going to make you go through that whole process. You can definitely go through that and get a lot of value out of it, and I'm going to encourage it. But what I want to do is show you the things that I discovered through doing that. So I talk a lot here, and I do want to make sure I haven't missed important stuff in here, because I see all sorts of great comments in here. And Dean, thanks so much for the kind words about the course. And yeah, you definitely rocked through that course. And I've been looking, the music that you've posted since then is just, just has this wonderful harmonic sophistication. So Tara is focused on lever harp. So the trick is definitely going to be how to make that work. So, so a lever harp, you have levers, right? It's diatonic, but changeable, right? I mean, I know how pedal harps work, and I'm less familiar, but you still can move the levers on the strings, right? To get the accidentals. You can't just, you just can't do them willy-nilly, right? You have to kind of plan for them in advance. But yeah, it's doable from my understanding. But the whole first section of the course is going to be really exploring diatonic harmony, and there's a lot we can do within the world of diatonic harmony, right? So anyhow, yeah, harp is definitely a challenging instrument to do this with, just because of its design, for sure. All right, get more discussion about the light bulb stuff and so forth, so that's all great. And yeah, and Allison is absolutely right about playing a melodic instrument, because transposing, here's the other observation that I make. Transposing chords, well, transposing anything is basically playing by ear. It's just playing it by ear in a different key than you started it in. So don't be thinking about it as, oh, I need to move everything down a major third or up a perfect fourth or whatever. You're not moving every note one by one. You're reconstructing that original melody in a new key. Or maybe it's not the melody, maybe it's the bass line, right? I'm reconstructing that bass line in another key. I hadn't played that in B before, but I still remember the piece. So I'm reconstructing it really kind of by ear, right? I'm not remembering, oh, it goes down by step 5 times and then it goes up a step. No, I'm singing the thing in my head and hearing when it goes up, when it goes down. When we have 5 to 1, I hear what 5-1 sounds like. I hear what a stepwise bass line sounds like. I'm really using my ear a ton while I'm transposing, but it's being also informed by the theory and my understanding of the patterns. So, joy to the world. Sure, it could be, right? Usually with joy to the world, it's 1, 2, its more root position. It doesn't use those inversions, but it is the same harmony. Brilliant observation. And okay, so now here's one of the other things. I get so excited by this stuff. So once you realize that, you're like, man, what would happen if someone took that Karo Mio Ben inversion use and superimposed it into Joy to the World, since we see they're using the same patterns. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Right? I could totally do that. Da, 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 I could totally use that entire chunk of Karo Mio Ben and put the entire Joy to the World melody on it, and it totally worked, right? So this idea of taking something that you learn from one song and then applying it to another song, then you realize new things about relationships between melody and chords, and then you're like, oh, now I got to write my own song that uses that thing, right? So the idea of reharmonizing is one of the things about this, but then also taking it into your own compositions, right? So, and reharmonizing is definitely something jazz players do a lot, but I don't want to give you the idea that I'm only talking about jazz. And that's why one reason why I definitely wanted to make sure I'm talking about Karo Mio Ben a bunch, not because that's the be all and end all of anything, but this song was written with particular arrangement, but we don't even know who wrote this arrangement, right? This might not be from the hand of the guy that wrote the song. The guy who wrote the song might have had other chords in mind, and then it was this guy here, Giuseppe Giordani, who wrote that arrangement. But maybe the original chords might have been a little different. Same with a lot of like folk songs or a lot of songs that come to us from the Renaissance. A lot of these songs have melodies, but were never like, there was never a set chord progression that went with them. They were just melodies, and people have harmonized them different ways over the years. And that's what we're going to be doing a bunch in this course, is taking folk songs and harmonizing them, because it's a great approach, and we're not married to a particular harmony. We have an idea of the simplistic harmony that goes with a folk song that we've probably heard before, but it doesn't bother our sensibilities to put new chords to those songs the way it might if I tried to change around Karo Mio Ben and you sang that thing at a recital in college, and now you're hearing new chords. Your ear might just say, no, I don't like that, right? So some songs you're not going to want to hear new chords to, but folk songs are usually good choices for that. G sharp on is. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Is that what you're talking about? Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Oh, I love it. Yeah, love it. Beautiful. Brilliant, Michael. Love it. And that idea of 5 going to 6, sometimes 5 goes directly to 6, but 5 then having a passing diminished chord to get to 6. This is another one of those things where you play 2 songs back to back in the same key. One goes directly from 5 to 6. The other includes the passing chord. And you're like, oh, wow, that works just as well. It makes me want to try it in Karo Mio Ben. Right? Passing diminished chord to the B minor. It gives you this great idea to try something. Yeah, for all I know, maybe they do that later on in the arrangement, but I don't see the sharps in the left hand that would tell me that was happening. But yeah, so you learn something from one song and then apply it to another. This is the kind of stuff that I went through that I want to cut out all that trial and error for you and just get right to the crux of the matter and show you these are the things I learned. These are the things that takes everything that I learned from, first of all, reading theory books as a kid, studying theory with my piano teacher, and then also taking music theory courses in college, playing professionally, all these things that I did to learn theory. I'm now whittling it down to saying, now this is the important stuff. These are the big picture things. The details are the details, but there's just so much you can get done by just focusing on these big picture patterns and really becoming familiar with them. And then the details take care of themselves. So I want to wrap it up So Allison, that's a good challenge. I don't know Zadok or Zadok the priest, so I would appreciate if you want to send me a link to that, and I will figure it out. But yeah, that's a good challenge because I'm sure it's something that exists in your world that I don't know in mine. So I just want to quickly run over what that syllabus looked like, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. So this whole basic principles stuff is the things that you might take an entire semester on in a college course that I'm going to try to wrap down into 2 weeks. It's just we're going to be mostly talking about diatonic chords, but we're going to talk about chord voicing and voice leading, why it was that this chord was voiced this way, why we had the stepwise motion in the bass there in Karo Mio Ben, and they got to keep the common tone, the tenor voice, between here and here and here, then right. So this connecting of chords smoothly. If I just follow each note, and right, this is called voice leading. So we want to understand these things for the same reasons that I talked about in the cafe yesterday, where if you don't play the chords with good voice leading, you're going to think they don't sound good. So you need to learn to play chords well. You need to learn to or write them well, whether you're playing it on the piano or entering it in the MuseScore. You want to hear those chords being played with good voice leading, with good voicing principles. Otherwise, they're not going to sound good to you, and you're gonna rule out some good stuff. So we want to really focus on that kind of stuff for the first couple weeks here, and then we're going to really talk about the function of the chords, the function of tonic chords versus dominant chords versus subdominant chords. Jeffrey, you're asking if I have a course for beginning keyboard, and no, I don't. And if anyone else has a good recommendation, I'm happy to pass them along. Kevin is asking, when the course ends, can you audit it? Yes, when you take the course, you get permanent access to the course materials themselves. You know, the rest of the community stuff, the stuff that's just part of the gold level membership, that ends with your membership unless you continue the membership. But the course materials themselves are yours forever. So I want to make sure I'm not missing anything else here. But Michael's comment about the how that diminished chord relates to another chord. Yep, that's the kind of stuff we talk about in the course. So I'm going to be getting deep into the function of the diatonic chords, but then most of the course is on the non-diatonic chords, secondary dominants. The idea that we are going to have chords that are not in the key of the piece, but are in a related key. So for instance, right here, we have that G sharp not in the key. It's not in the key of D, but it is in the key of A, and that's where we're going, is to an A chord. That E chord is there to set up the A chord. That's secondary dominance, right? So we're going to be talking about secondary dominance a lot because it is by far the most important type of non-diatonic chord there is. In fact, in this piece, I would venture to say that every single accidental that I see here is the result of that secondary dominant chord. So it's super important. But then we'll talk about borrowed chords like that minor 4 chord that I've been just so in love with. We'll talk about that diminished approach chord that Michael brought up. We'll talk about these other more advanced concepts of augmented 6 chords and Neapolitans and pedal point and tritone substitution. All of this kind of stuff. We'll talk about modulation, the idea that songs might go to other keys at some point for a portion of the song and how that's accomplished. So all of these are the things that we're going to cover over the course of 15 weeks. It's going to be a ton of material, but again, I have really worked hard to boil it all down to digestible things that I think are the essence of what I learned through basically years of experimenting, transposing songs and so forth. So that's my story. So I talk fast and I miss comments in the chat. I do want to make sure if I miss something, give me an opportunity to answer more questions. So let me, so if I missed anything in the chat, really important, let me know and I will try to answer it real quick. Are there any other questions I can answer before we sign off? Because, I usually go about an hour and I'm just over that now. So, but I'm happy to stick around to answer questions. that I may have missed along the way. But yeah, there's going to be so much that you are going to learn. If you don't already know what augmented sixth chords are, Neapolitans, and all these advanced things, you're going to learn what they are. But more importantly, you're going to get, I'm going to try to teach it in a way where it's not just this thing you learned about in a textbook in college and then couldn't remember what to do with or why to do it with, but you'll be able to use these things. Now, is there a single page version of the syllabus? That's a good question. So the syllabus, by single page, I mean, this is one web page, but this is on Teachable. I will be setting up this structure on Circle today, so you will be able to see the full syllabus on one page. So yes, I will try to get that happening today. But you can also just, review this video and watch where I scroll through it. But I will make sure I've got that posted. Assignment. Oh gosh, yes. As I mentioned, there's going to be assignments. I can only talk about so much and I get off on tangents, but yeah, we're going to have all these things, and I focus on folk songs, both because they work well for reharmonization and you're not married to the original harmonies, but I will also be encouraging new compositions and other things using the concepts. We'll take them one at a time. So, all right, let's focus just on good voice leading with these simple chords, and I'll even give you chords, say, now just try to write this out with good voice leading. And then I'll say, well, now let's get some secondary dominance in there, right? There's going to be projects to work on every week, projects to work on. And then, you can post them, give each other feedback. I will give feedback on it. We'll use these sessions, these Thursday sessions, where I will give feedback on people's projects and so forth. So let's see. Oh, Allison, let me go ahead and download this thing right now. Oh, I need to get it from the other window that I have open. So let me, I will get that later. But that's Zaybach or whatever the thing is, I assume. So to answer the Pro and Gold. So Pro is something entirely different. MuseScore Pro is a service of the website MuseScore.com. I have no connection to MuseScore.com. So they offer a service called MuseScore Pro, nothing to do with me. So MuseScore, the gold level membership, is for my website, masteringmusescore.com, which is where I offer the course on learning MuseScore, as well as this harmony course, as well as my basic theory course, as well as counterpoint course, and various other resources, right? So that's what my gold level membership does, is gives access to all of my resources. But MuseScore Pro, totally unrelated company. So Sue is asking about a live class. This is it. The Thursdays are the live class. Everything else is at your leisure. On Mondays, I will post lessons. So Elliot is also asking about this, if you can't attend Mondays. So there's nothing to attend on Mondays. Mondays is when I will post the lessons, but they will be videos that then you can watch at your leisure. So what's going to happen is, like this coming Monday, I'm going to post the lessons from the first section of the course, and it's going to be like 2 hours worth of videos, in like 10-minute segments and so forth. In fact, you'll see what it is. It's going to be these videos here. It's going to be harmonic rhythm, chord and non-chord tones, classification of non-chord tones, chord voicing, voice leading, part writing, etc. It's going to be these lessons posted. And then these other ones, the demonstrations, I'm going to post also kind of gradually throughout the week, as well as the projects. But these are all things you can watch whenever you want. So even though there's going to be a couple hours of material to get through that I post starting on Monday, you don't have to do it at any particular time. Do it whenever you want. You'll have like basically 2 weeks to do it, because the lessons would be posted and then the demonstrations and projects. And so you'll have a couple weeks to work on that material before we go on to the next section. The only thing that's live is these sessions on Thursdays. So, Katerina is asking, what ways is ear training incorporated? I try to do it all the time, but it's not in the sense of, okay, today we're going to have this sight singing drill or whatever, because that's sort of a different thing. But this idea of learning what 1-5-1 sounds like, yeah, that's huge. Every single thing we do, I want you to be able to recognize by ear. So we're going to make sure that we focus on that. So in the lessons, I'm going to ask you to do that, but on these sessions, these live sessions on Thursdays, we'll probably poke on that a little bit more. Because yes, a big part of this is I need you to understand what minor 4 going to 1 sounds like, right? Tara is asking Circle access through Mastering MuseScore. Yeah, so Circle is the platform that Mastering MuseScore is based on. So Mastering MuseScore is my business, and the website is run by a company called Circle. There's two different sites, the Teachable site and the Circle site, but this is what we're going to be doing here is on the Circle site. So when you sign up for Mastering MuseScore, you are basically creating an account on Circle, more or less. That's how that goes. All right. So, any other questions that I'm missing? Calendar schedule. So Dave, so that's basically it. No, Mondays is when I post new material, and then basically every other Monday lessons are posted, projects and demonstrations then throughout the week, so that you have a couple weeks to digest each section at your own pace, and then 2 weeks later, the next Monday, new lessons get posted. But the only live thing on a schedule is this. All right. So, that said, I think I'm going to try to say that I'm done here. And by all means, keep asking me questions, post them in the community, send me emails, use the direct message feature in the community to ask questions. You know, do whatever it takes to get your questions answered so that you feel comfortable with whether or not this course is the right choice for you. But I'm really hoping it is, because there's just so much that I have to show you in here, and I'm so excited. You just see me bubbling with excitement at, you know, how much I want to be able to show you this stuff and get you to be able to do these things that I'm talking about, and creating your own harmonizations, and, you know, being able to play by ear in different keys, all the things that I'm talking about. I would love to get you to the point of doing those things. So, yes, if there's other questions, be letting me know. Meanwhile, where's my window here where I can see if there's anything else final in the chat? Thanks everyone for being here. The link is at the top. Is there anything tomorrow? Nope, nothing tomorrow. You'll get another email from me just reminding you, hey, course is getting ready to close. Because, yeah, I'm going to close the enrollment for this course by the end of the week, whether it's tomorrow or Saturday, whatever it's going to be, because I don't want people trying to enroll after we start. We're gonna close enrollment. So make sure you get yourself enrolled soon if you haven't already. All right, thanks everyone, and I will see you all hopefully in the course on Monday. And if not, I'll see you back here either way on next Thursday. So hope to see you then, because we'll do some version of this live stream every Thursday. Bye all.